Hello there, people of the internet. There is a lot of controversy whenever it comes to the effectiveness of your 5.56 cartridge. And I want to go ahead and add a couple of pointers, a couple of insights whenever it comes to the effectiveness of that cartridge. Now, normally whenever I hear people say that the 5.56 is ineffective, they're talking about their personal experience with the cartridge, and they're like, I know for a fact that if I smack something with those rounds, they continue to walk. They're still a combatant, they're dangerous, that is not a good cartridge. And to those guys, I asked them, well, did you carry an M4? And they're like, yeah, I carried an M4. Did you use green tip? Yeah, I used green tip. And I'm like, oh, that's a really, really bad combination. Green tip rounds are designed, well, they were designed to be used in a 20-inch barrel. And your M4 barrel, it's a 14.5-inch barrel. So you have significantly lowered velocity with those green tip rounds. Now, fast forward a couple of years, probably in, I think it was like 2010 or so, the United States actually improved on the M855 design and adopted the M855A1, which is a far more effective round to be used out of a short M4 barrel. Still not the greatest of 5.56 rounds, but it's a far more effective round to be used out of that. Now, all of that being said, on the civilian market, we don't have any standard issue stuff. Like, with what it is that we're using, we oftentimes find ourselves arguing the best twist rate and the best barrel length and the best projectile type and the best bullet weights and just all of this stuff. And we're trying to figure out the best combination to get all of this to work as well as possible. And the big issue with that is people associate accuracy with their gun and hits on target with the effectiveness of the cartridge, but there's so much more that goes into the effectiveness of a 5.56 round. Like, for example, 1 in 7 twist barrels. That right there is by far the most popular barrel because that is the profile barrel used by the United States military in an effort to be able to stabilize the 62 grain projectiles. They adopted it in their M16A2 barrels, the 1 in 7 twist, whenever they ended up moving to green tip. I think this was done in 1982, 1983, sometime in that time period. Before that, the United States was rocking a 1 in 12 twist, and that 1 in 12 twist was extraordinarily good at stabilizing 55 grain projectiles. That being said, the 55 grain projectile was like right on the edge of not properly stabilizing, but it was proper enough to be able to properly stabilize, but just barely. And what that equates to is as soon as it hits a target, it basically tumbles upon impact. And from a 1 in 12 twist barrel, we see a tremendous increase in damage on soft gelatinous targets in comparison to something like a 1 in 7. You can actually go watch Military Arms channel. He did this with watermelon, which is probably the most predominant the most predominant video explaining this particular topic, just because that bullet is not nearly as stabilized, and so as soon as it hits a target, it starts to tumble and yaw, as opposed to a 1 in 7 twist, where once it hits a target, it continues to stay stabilized as it passes through that target for several inches, oftentimes managing to pass through that target far enough to the point to where it would have just popped out the backside of a human-sized target. And we would not have seen any tumbling or fragmentation or any proper deployment of the capabilities of what the 5.56 round is supposed to be able to do. And this issue is emphasized dramatically more as you decrease the velocities of the 5.56 round by, say, using a shorter barrel. So if you have a 1 in 12 twist rate rifle, which is originally what the M16 was originally for, or the 1 in 14 twist which was like really, really early versions of the M16 rifle. And those really, really early versions had trouble stabilizing certain kinds of 5.56 rounds, like certain kinds of boat tails and certain kinds of, say, tracer rounds and other kinds of specialty ammunition. They just weren't stable enough in order for you to get the best accuracy out of those particular rounds that you were trying to use. So they ended up going to the 1 in 12 twist, and the 1 in 12 twist just did a phenomenally effective job on basically all of the targets that any 55 grain were to go up against, especially out of that 20-inch barrel. Fast forward to the adoption of green tips and the adoption of the M16A2, you still had that long barrel, but now they bumped it up to a 1-in-7 twist. And I have no idea why they went to a 1-in-7 twist. Like, they could have gone to a 1-in-10 twist and still stabilized those 62 grain bullets. A lot of people tell me that the 1-in-10 or the 1-in-9 won't stabilize 62 grain bullets, and I have no idea why they think that. Like, even the charts say that they will. Like this Ruger Mini 14, I actually ran some accuracy testing with this exact one. This is a 1-in-10 twist barrel. It's a 1982 production Ruger Mini 14, 1-in-10 twist barrel. And I went out with green tips to see if they would stabilize through this particular rifle, and sure enough, they did. You can go on my YouTube channel right now and watch that. So why they decided to go with a 1-in-7 twist, I have no idea. During the time period of the 62 grain adoption, they weren't planning on using any real heavier bullets. Something like the 77 grain projectiles didn't come around until later on, but that's probably a topic for another video. If they were to have, say, adopted a 1-in-10 twist to where the bullets would still be stabilized to the point of being accurate on target, like getting away from the 1-in-12 twist, which can very well stabilize a 55 grain bullet, but not really stabilize a 62 grain bullet. If they were to, say, settle on a 1-in-10 twist barrel to where those 55 and 62 grain bullets were stabilized enough to be able to hit their target, but like destabilized enough, like not stabilized to the point to where they would have trouble tumbling and yawing whenever they actually hit that target, then I feel like that would have been a far more effective twist rate for adoption than the 1-in-7. So even with the adoption of the M16A2 with the 1-in-7 twist barrel, that long barrel, even with that long barrel, it just was not that great of a platform. The twist rate was just too fast to be able to reliably get rounds to tumble and yaw on for an impact on target within the lengths of a man-sized target, especially if we're talking about instances where the United States government was going up against like really skinny dudes, where these rounds would just kind of like ice pick through whatever target it is that people were firing at. And it really wouldn't do anything because all of the tumbling and yawing happened afterwards because the bullet was just still stabilized as it ended up passing through that target. And the round was just not designed for that twist rate. It was not designed for a 62 grain bullet. It was not designed for a steel core green tip penetrating round. It was designed for a 1-in-12 twist barrel, 55 grain bullet, 20-inch length barrel, and it was designed to fragment because of its lead core, and it is extraordinarily effective at that. And again, you can go and watch Military Arms channel whenever he smacks watermelon with that, and it really is a fantastic example of just how much more energy is transferred onto that target from that much more destabilized bullet from that 1-in-12 twist in comparison to the much more stabilized 1-in-7 twist bullet. Don't get me wrong, they're both absolutely devastating, and I have absolutely no doubts that both of them will be able to put something into the ground, whatever it is that you're firing at. Now, all of that being said, in the modern day, we cannot deny that 62 grain bullets are overwhelmingly common. As a matter of fact, I think they're the current NATO standard, like your green tipped 62 grain M855. I think that's a worldwide standard as of right now. So the 1-in-12 twist AR barrel just is not going to be ideal because the odds of you coming across green tip that you'll have to fire is quite high in the event that you're not providing your own, say, M193 55 grain bullets. So just because of the likelihood of you coming across any, say, 62 grain bullets or potentially even heavier, like 77 grain AR bullets or like 5.56 bullets are also extraordinarily common nowadays, but not nearly as common as like the 55 and 62 grain ones. So just because of the commonality of both the 55 and the 62 grain projectiles, I would say that the 1-in-12 twist is probably not going to be ideal. I would probably have to give it to the 1-in-10. I have not seen any ballistic gel tests done from a 1-in-10 twist barrel. As a matter of fact, I plan on doing that myself. Did I do that myself? Oh, I think I did. Oh, that certainly explains it. Yeah, a little while ago, I made just some fun gel test videos. And sure enough, I fired a 55 grain bullet through my Ruger Mini 14 right here, and that right there was in fact a 1 in 10 twist barrel going into ballistic gel. And that certainly explains why that 55 grain bullet absolutely blew apart way sooner than I've ever seen with another round. I'm like just now piecing that together. I'm not sure what the barrel length on the Ruger Mini 14 is. I'm sure it's a 20-inch. But that's just speculation on my part. But the big thing is that 1 in 10 twist barrel with that 55 grain bullet. That 55 grain bullet was still stabilized enough to be able to be quite effective on that ballistic gel whenever I smacked it with it. However, the 55 grain bullet and the 62 grain bullets will both run through the 1 in 10 twist. Ask me how I know. I literally have video evidence of me doing that with my Ruger Mini 14 on the YouTube channel. So if you want to see that, go ahead and go check that out. Now, if you are in a particular situation where you might potentially be coming across 77 grain projectiles, then you might want to start looking at your 1 in 9 twist barrel. People will tell you that a 1 in 9 twist will not stabilize 77 grain projectiles, but those guys have never actually fired 77 grain projectiles inside of a 1 in 9 twist. As a matter of fact, I have personally watched 77 grain projectiles smack at 1,000 yards from a 1 in 9 twist barrel. That's one of those tests, again, that you can look up online and go check it out. I can't remember who it is that actually did that, but again, I'm sure a quick Google search or a quick YouTube search bar search will show you whatever it is that you're wanting to see. So the 1 in 9 twist absolutely will stabilize a 77 grain projectile, and it will stabilize it extraordinarily effectively. So if you are wanting to rock those 77 grain projectiles, maybe that 1 in 9 twist might be the best option, because those 55 grain and 62 grain bullets will still stabilize, but they're going to be unstabilized enough to probably be more effective on your target than, say, a 1 in 7 twist will. I would like to get myself like some clear ballistic gel to run a 1 in 7, 1 in 8, 1 in 9, 1 in 10, and 1 in 12 twist AR barrel in that thing, and see how effective these 55 grain projectiles would be. I have basically all of the twist rates that we would need. I have a 1 in 9 Delton back there. I have a 1 in 7 back there. I have my 1 in 10, and I can get a 1 in 12 twist. Those right there are not exactly uncommon to find because they're a very common M16 style barrel. So get one of those, probably throw that on my M16 inspired build right here, and that would make for a really fun gel test, seeing just how effective these different twist rates would be. 62 grain will not stabilize very well in a 1 in 12 twist barrel. We have seen that time and time again, but a 1 in 10 twist stabilizes it exceptionally well. I just want to see how effective that would be against, say, some sort of gelatinous material. Now, if I had to pick like a best, I would say probably the 1 in 9, just because of the availability of the 1 in 9 twist barrels. They are overwhelmingly common here in the United States. The 1 in 7 and 1 in 9 are probably going to be the two most common, followed by the 1 in 8, which is a good, happy middle ground medium. But your 1 in 12 twist, you don't really see those nowadays, not unless you see somebody with like a retro build or something like that. It's just kind of fallen out of favor ever since people started leaning towards using 62 grain projectiles. But dude, the 1 in 10 twist, like say from the Ruger Mini 14 barrels, like the Ruger Mini 14, I think all the way up until 1988, they're all 1 in 10 twist. After 1988, they became a 1 in 9 twist, I think. And then sometime in the 90s, they became a 1 in 7 twist. So look up the year on your particular Ruger Mini 14, and it'll tell you what your twist rate actually is. So all of that being said, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go out, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.